David Hooper, Music Business Radio here from the Tuned In Broadcasting Studios in Nashville, Tennessee. With me, Eric Hutchinson.
How's it going?
Good to see you. You've been through town before.
Yeah.
And you're back into town. I just kind of hijacked you. You were doing a live broadcast here with our home station, Lightning 100, here in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah, well, it's good to be wanted.
Gosh, man. Well, it's a great city to play in it because we're full of musicians. So you know that if people are going to come see you, they've seen a lot of great musicians, and it's got to feel good to have the kind of respect that you've gotten here in Nashville because everybody here loves you.
Yes, that's good to hear. I don't know. I see it as pressure, but yeah, that's cool. That's very cool.
Well, everybody in the audience tonight is going to play guitar. That you know. So
yeah, exactly.
If something happens to your guitar player, you just don't feel like playing, just call them up. So
come on in.
Let's talk about how you got started. And something that I didn't know that I just heard just 2 seconds ago, your grandmother was actually a musician.
She was, yeah. She was a viola player. She did mostly, weddings and, she actually did a program where she'd go to elementary schools and teach people about, a string quartet.
Uh-huh.
But then also she would get hired, when touring acts would come through town, they'd hire a whole string section, in each city. So she played with, Tony Bennett, the Jackson 5, Smokey Robinsons. Oh, man, all kinds of people.
Like the who's who of the people that needed strings.
I mean, everybody who I would have loved to have seen and was too young to really appreciate what she was doing. So I totally screwed up.
Well, did she give you any advice for the music industry when you got in it?
She said, don't do it. She really pushed me hard not to do it. And every time I would see her, she'd mention, the Discovery Channel is hiring around the corner, blah, blah, blah. She really, and that was actually sort of a point where I felt like I was finally doing well, was when she would stop telling me, to get a day job.
Yeah, right.
So,
right. Well, you've got a kind of interesting story because your record, it's a new record out on Warner Brothers called Sounds Like This, but it was actually released independently at first.
Right, yeah.
So, and they picked it up. Give us kind of the backstory on that.
Yeah, so the backstory is I was signed to Maverick Records, which was Madonna's label underneath Warner Brothers, and I got signed there, and I was about to start making the album. I've been doing it for about 5 years now, and I thought that was finally going to be my big break, and I was about to start making the album. We were demoing, and then I get the call from my A&R guy, the label's folding, we're going under, everything's being frozen. You can't stay in your hotel room tonight. We're shipping you home tomorrow.
Yeah, not a whole lot of time, huh?
Like really just, pulling the plug out.
Gosh.
So, and then that started a 6-month waiting period where pretty much Warner Brothers owned everything, so they got to go through everything and decide what they were going to keep. And I got thrown out with the bathwater.
So does that mean that you got to keep like the masters?
There were no masters. It wasn't even. We were just demoing. Like nothing had been done yet. So
cool.
I was depressed and I'm frustrated because I really felt like that was finally it. And it just before I even got a chance to do it, it was over. And after thinking about it for a while, I decided to make the album myself. And I just felt like I had to at least try it once. And then if it didn't go well, then I could at least say, well, at least I gave it my all. But to feel like I never even got a chance was going to eat away at me, I think. So I went and made the album myself, found some cool people who were willing to, take budget cuts and stuff because they liked the music. And then Perez Hilton got a hold of it right after I released it independently. Perez Hilton, celebrity blogger.
Right, kind of a gossip blogger, but also has a really good ear for music.
He does. I mean,
do you know Miko?
Yeah.
Now, we've had Miko come through, and she was really helped by Perez,
and
you were as well. So.
That's actually how I met her. We did a couple of shows later on that Perez had put on and stuff. But yeah, so he recommended my album, and within the day, it had shot up to the top 5 of iTunes, and we have all these labels calling, and suddenly, everyone's excited about this album. And the last party to come to the table was Warner Brothers Records, and my manager actually had to tell them, you just dropped them about 6 months ago.
You could have gotten a real bargain.
They didn't even realize. And so, but that being said, they were actually really excited about the project. There was different people that had been involved with it before, and they were really excited about it. And a big thing for me was like, I want to put this album out as is. It's already out. I want to just continue it out, but I want to get it to more people, So they were really good about that. So the album is exactly the same, same artwork, same exact version.
I think I got your record because I've had it a couple years, and I think I got it off like CD Baby.
That's possible,
at first, and it was, and I guess so. They've just basically picked up the same record you can get today on Warner Brothers is the one that you released.
Yeah,
they didn't change anything.
Yeah, some of them are still out there. Best Buy had before I got signed, Best Buy bought a bunch of copies of the album, and they were just putting it in the stores by itself. So some of them are still out there. There's some out there without the Warner Brothers logo on it.
Well, I want to know about the biggest difference between being independent and being signed. So what's the kind of the high and low points?
Well, from my experiences, it's been really good. I mean, I always have sort of been pop-minded. You know, I made the album because I wanted people to hear it, and I don't necessarily think pop music is a bad thing. So for me, it was exciting to get people behind it and do their jobs way better than because, you know, I did so much of it myself for a long time, was doing the booking, was doing the CD design, all that, like, horrible, tedious stuff that, like, never left me any time to make the music. Mm-hmm. So when people came into it and you know, Warner Bros. Has just been really excited about the project, and I guess that's the biggest difference, is there's just a lot more people scheduling my life and creating opportunities for me, you know. So now I've got, you know, a tour manager and a business manager and 3 different people at the label scheduling radio and promotion and stuff like that. So it's,
well, I know you've got a really busy day now. This is at least the second interview that I'm aware of. Give us an example of your typical day.
Well, I mean, the problem is I'm sort of a workaholic, and so I'm kind of constantly caught in that middle. I like to say the 2 favorite things I like to do is I love to be busy, and I love to complain about being busy. So, but you know, I mean, we're already scheduled through May, and it's sometimes I look at the schedule. I'm like, what am I doing? I have like 2 days off here.
Yeah,
but on the other hand, it's like all I want to do is be working and working, and I feel like this is kind of the time to do it. So
yeah, this was like a dream, I would imagine. Like
it is.
A couple years ago, when you were still independent, you just been had the kind of rug pulled out from under you with Warner Brothers the first time.
Right.
But did you ever think that you'd be back? You know,
I didn't know. Again? I mean, that was sort of the goal in the back of my head, was I wanted to make the album to eventually get signed to a label, and everyone said, no, they don't do that anymore. That's stop living in the past. And actually, when I finished the album, I'd finally kind of come to terms with it wasn't probably going to happen. And then it was a very weird situation. But I understand my grandmother's side of view these days, though, because, you know, a lot of people ask me for advice, you know, on how to get going, and it's an amazing amount of work. Luckily, I love doing it, so it doesn't feel like work, but it's like, you know, it's a lot of effort. And there's some nights when I go to sleep feeling like, is this really what I'm going to do the rest of my life? You know, I just got bashed in here by this crowd, or, you know, it's such a huge country, and it's a constant reminder that people don't care about what you're passionate about. Right. So, but then on the other hand, it's really great. You know, we do these shows and people are coming out and people are loving the music, and I have people tell me that I got them through, you know, the music got them through, you know, the loss of a loved one, or that they put it on to start their day. And, you know, I have albums like that, and so the idea that somebody else could get that kind of feeling out of my music is, you know, that's what keeps me going.
Let's talk about Daryl Hall.
Let's talk about him.
And that's not just a random question. You know, I'm a big fan, and one of the things I love is Live at Daryl's House, which is live at darylshouse.com. And last time I logged in, you were there, man. So Daryl Hall invites. Well, I'll let you kind of give the backstory on what it is.
Yeah, so it's Daryl Hall from Hall & Oates, and he pretty much has his house up in upstate New York, and he once a month invites an artist to come, and he has his old band there. And you play a couple of, you know, the artist songs, a couple of Hall & Oates songs, a couple of cover songs, and then you spend the whole day there. And so I found out about this at South by Southwest last year, and thought it sounded really cool, and I gave them my name, and they actually said, oh, your name was actually, like, recommended to us from South by Southwest people, you know, like, and I was like, great, this sounds so cool, and then nothing, you know, like I didn't hear anything for like 7 months, and I figured, oh, that's not going to happen. And then out of the blue, I got a call, and they're like, you can go into Daryl's house next week.
So you got to refresh all the Hall & Oates songs.
Right. So my first thing was awesome, and my next reaction was, oh my God, what have I just got myself into?
Well, I was thinking about it because I remember watching, and you drive up in the car, and Daryl Hall's waiting for you. And I remember thinking, man, I would be intimidated as hell.
Yeah, it was definitely, it was very surreal, especially, you know, and then we ended up, we sing, I'm not sure which was more surreal, singing Private Eyes with him or listening to him sing half of my song.
Yeah.
They're both equally weird. But, you know, I mean, he was really still a great musician, and the band was amazing. And it was really a weird day, but really exciting. And it's funny, I mean, you know, last year was a good year for me, and we did a lot of cool things. But that is the one thing that, like, my friends cared about. Like, nobody, like, nothing else. Like, oh, Tonight Show, who cares? Tell me about Daryl's house, you know? So it's like... It's been really cool, though.
Yeah. And like I said, you talk about his band. I mean, those guys have been around for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
Saturday Night Live, T-Bone playing on Saturday Night Live.
Right. And then the Sean Pelton is the house drummer for Saturday Night Live these days. He was there. And, I mean, they're really great musicians who picked everything up so fast. Yeah. So that was a lot of fun, you know? I mean, it felt kind of like a Thanksgiving dinner of my girlfriend's house, except my girlfriend wasn't there, and I'm kind of like hanging out with all these people that I sort of know. That's kind of what it felt like.
Well, well, you knew about him anyway. You probably grown up listening to that stuff.
Definitely, and I mean, it was a lot of fun. One thing I promised myself I'd ask him was about the We Are the World session, because I love watching the DVD of the making of We Are the World, and he had some really great stories about that stuff and Michael Jackson and stuff like that.
Well, speaking of great stories, give me a quick story about From the Road, something that's happened to you since you've been touring for this record.
Oh, man. They're not, I mean, I'm probably the most boring musician you'll come across. I mean, I'm really... I can't drink really because my voice can't handle it, so I don't really party that much. It's just been a lot of work.
That's probably a good career move, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I try to take it seriously. It's just been a lot of work, but in a really good way. It's playing and just moving and trying to get the entire country excited about the music. It's a daunting task sometimes. But,
it is,
but it's a lot of fun. And it's. Feels like we're making progress always. So.
One more question for you. What is your advice for upcoming musicians?
My main advice is to make sure you love it. I think a lot of people think, oh, I like doing music, I might as well try and make that a profession. It's a lot of work, and if you don't really love it, the times when it's bad, if you're into it just because you want to be famous or because you want money or something, you're not going to get through it that way, I don't think. So.
Well, I imagine it's not all glamorous.
It's definitely not all glamorous, and it's a lot of work, but if you love it, it all makes sense. But if you're kind of just in for the wrong reasons, I think it's not going to work out.
So, Eric, where can people, the album, Warner Brothers, it's available everywhere.
Yeah.
It's called Sounds Like This, but where can people find out more information about you?
You can check out my website, erichutchinson.com, MySpace, Facebook, all that stuff. I don't really, I try to get on that stuff. I have a blog on my website and stuff like that, but, I'd say come check out the show. We're constantly touring. And I think it's a really great way to get introduced to the music, even if you don't know it.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so check it out, erichutchinson.com for tour dates and more information on the new Warner Brothers release. Sounds Like This. Eric, appreciate you stopping by today.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.